Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Elevate Your Running podcast. This is Coach Sarah, and today I want to talk all about how to get the most out of your racing. Now, if you are an athlete that I coach, you might be scratching your head and thinking, wait, this is also a team call that we're having in March. And so I thought it would be great to talk high level on the podcast about how to get the most out of your race, which is going to be different for everyone. It's going to look and be different for everyone. Everyone has different goals. Everyone has different outcomes, different process goals. They're in different places with their training. They're in different places in their season of racing. So it's all going to be different for everyone. It's the tried and true, like, it depends answer that I have to give for any running question that I get, because it really does depend on the athlete and where they're at and where they're coming from and where they're going and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm excited about the episode because I do want to cover some things that we can use to get the most out of our race season. We're coming up on spring races. We have tune-ups. Yeah, we love tune-ups. I have quite a few tune-ups coming up, which I'm excited about. And we also have A-Goal spring races. And that's also really exciting because we're getting out of winter, we're getting into spring season. And what we know to be true is once we get through spring season, then we're right in to summer running, and then we can spend some time heat acclimating. But anyways, this is going to be a really great episode because it kind of came from actually the February athlete team call that I had. And we talked all about gear and gels and shoes and things that the team really enjoys, because I can give my preference all day long, but it doesn't mean it's the right preference or right for you. So I really enjoyed bringing the team in and talking about those three categories. That's really all the time we had for in an hour. But one thing that came up was how we use our phones for music and how that phone then turns into phone calls, FaceTimes, uploading to Instagram while racing. So I know we have video of this, and I'm pretty sure my face went from I'm so energized and happy to be here as a coach to like, what the heck? Are you guys doing that out there? So I think if you're someone who might be having and racing with your phone, maybe we'll get to that today. But I think ultimately, I think it's such a great reminder on how to race, because racing is a skill set. And I think it's something that if we don't do enough, we forget how to do it. Or if we're new to running and we're new to racing, it might just be something that we're not really sure how to do. Now, it is really interesting because when I ran the Boulder 10K last year and my coach Nell was running next to me, it was the first time, I think, in a really long time, she, as a professional runner, was running with the non-elite wave, right? The amateurs, right? The citizens race. She was just out there with like the 6:30 runners, right? Which is like, for her, is like an easy effort, right? She was wearing trainers. Like, she was not wearing carbon plated shoes to pace me in this 10K. And two of our teammates came up behind us and passed us after mile 1, but before mile 2. And they're faster than me. They're like 251, 255 marathoners. Great women. And they must have been running late, or maybe they couldn't get to the front of the crowd because there was no reason for them to be behind me. And Nell had turned to them and said, like, what are you girls doing? Like, get going, get racing, because they were like, oh, hey, and talking and waving and being super cute and fun. But, in Nell's mind, she's like, why aren't they focused? Why aren't they like driving and running harder? Like, we're out here like chit chatting between miles 1 and 2, which I felt really excited about because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is 6:30 pace and I'm chit chatting. But, to the coach, it's like, I want people to be focused. I want people really determined. I want people understanding what they're doing. I want people dialed in. And I think every race distance is going to be a little bit different, because if you've raced marathons, you know that in those earlier miles, yes, you can absolutely be chit-chatting with people. That is a thing. It's something I like to do to kind of calm my nerves a little bit. I don't know if other people like it as much because I'm like chit-chatting away. But it can be a nice way to kind of ease into the first 10K of the marathon. Now, in the 5K, it's going to be a lot harder to do that. You're not going to be able to do that at all, right? You are really focused, really dialed. There are zero distractions going on on the course, or you're trying to minimize the distractions that are going on in the course. And so I think it's really important to understand and reflect on how you are as a racer, like as a whole, right? Macro level, and then micro level down, and think about, how do I show up during a 5K versus a 10K versus a half versus a full, maybe versus an ultra? Like, how do I show up? And is it different? Because I definitely show up different to a 5K versus a marathon, right? Like, I'm not talking in a 5K. You can't get anything out of me in a 5K except maybe like a really like a scowl or something that I'm like, leave me alone. I'm in the pain cave. That's definitely something I can give. But like with a marathon, very different. Am I focused? Yes, but you have more wiggle room to like not execute perfectly, especially in those earlier miles, especially if it's coming in a little bit slower. It's going to help you in the second half of the race. So this is going to be great. I'm really excited for it. Let's dig in. Okay, so the first thing that you want, trying to get the most out of your race, is understanding what that means. What does getting the most out of your race mean? So that's going to be different for everyone, right? Everyone gets a different answer for this, but I want you to think about, are you trying to PR the race? Are you looking to run more neutral splits? Are you looking to run, get into that like quote unquote pain cave and stay there? Are you looking for a breakthrough result? Is it all of these things? Is it a mixture of these things? What exactly is going on? When I first went, well, when I went back to now coaching in 2022, I had a few marathons where I was blowing up big time in the last 10K. And she was thinking it was, mindset and training related. And while I think some of that is true, I was also taking spring energy gels. So, like, I wasn't feeling my body, I wasn't taking in enough. And, like, that was a huge piece to it. So, since then, I've taken 8 minutes off my marathon since I stopped taking spring energy, which is pretty wild at, a pretty fast time already. So 8 minutes is a lot. And so what we did was, instead of saying, hey, you're training for this first marathon together, it's an 11-week cycle, 10 and a half because I had COVID. Instead of saying, hey, we're going through for a breakthrough race because I know you're capable of so much more, or hey, we're going for negative splits because I know you can do that, or hey, we're going after a PR and this is what we're going through, which is different than a breakthrough, right? A PR is under like 5 minutes. For the marathon, breakthrough's over 5. She said, I want you to run pretty conservatively for the first 20 miles. And then I want you to race the 10K. And I don't care what time comes in. I need you to execute that last 10K without blowing up. And then we will train for the marathon. And I thought, ooh, I like this. No pressure, right? Which is pretty cool. And that's what I did. I went out conservative. I went out slower than I thought I was gonna run. And I ran a 3:15 for the day, which I believe is 7:20 pace. First mile was 7:40. And I just started to work down. My last mile was 6:10. I didn't blow up. I felt great. It's still my favorite race, the unicorn race, because I didn't feel bad and I didn't blow up. Okay. So that's an example of getting the most out of your race by executing something that we're striving for. That is a racing skill set of like, now I just proved to myself, I do not slow down in the last 10K of a race. I do not blow up. I am capable of running even faster, and I can absolutely do this. When I went into my CIM race, which was in 2023, that was a very different approach. Now she's like, okay, you've run 2 marathons with me. I want you running pretty darn neutral splits, which was a very scary thing for me because I had never done that in a race before. I am very much I want to ease into this and progressively like get faster and get that negative split, feel really strong at the end. I probably leave a little bit out on the road because of that, but I feel really confident in that race strategy. And for CIM, she wanted more neutral or like even splits. And it ended up backfiring on me. Now, I was also taking spring energy on that for that marathon too. So who knows? But every race is going to have a different strategy. It's just getting the most out of your race for that day. Another great example is that I had an athlete run. She's coming back from an injury. It's my first time. It's her first time working with a coach. It's my first time working with her. Like it's like we just started working together a few months ago. As she was coming through this injury and she was like getting ready to get back into training. And so she signed up for a 10K. And initially it was like, oh, okay, cool. We can just take this as a time trial. But she was getting faster. And we had a few workouts before this 10K. And I thought, I don't know, the 10K is kind of long. It's also kind of a sufferfest if you're not ready for it. And that's like not really what I'm looking to have or create with this athlete. Like I want her to feel confident and feel really capable and also really proud of herself at the end of this run. And I don't know, I don't think a 10K is really where it's at. So what we did was I had her warm up for the first 5K and then I had her race the second half of the 10K. It's a little bit different because you're not getting in strides. She could have done surges in the first 5K if she wanted to. It was pouring rain. There was a lot on the road that I think was like causing like some slippery conditions. So she just went right into the 5K. She ran an incredible 5K. She had like over 200 feet of gain in this 5K. Just the 5K alone, the whole 10K race had over 550 feet of gain. It was insane. And she ran so well and so strong. And I'm so proud of her. And I think it was such a big confidence boost for her to see, like, oh, yes, I can run 3.1 miles really, really, really strong that are also hilly. Combined, I get to be part of this running community. I get to get back into it. I'm still healthy from it. Yay, 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 yay. So every race is going to have a little bit of a different kind of flavor to it, depending on what you're getting out of it. But what I will say is that if you are looking to break through, if you are looking to create something different than what you've created in other races at these same distances, I highly recommend leaving your phone with someone and not having a phone be a distraction or anything else that could be a distraction, right? We talk all the time about practicing with your race kit. We talk all the time about practicing with gels. And we talk all about like practicing, everything that you need to practice for race day to feel confident about race day. And I'm never not going to smile now when I talk about practicing gels, just kind of given what happened to me at Chicago with a gel that I used or practiced once. And obviously it wasn't enough of practice for it to take me down last fall in the marathon. But I think we also all live and learn, and like I'm normal just like everyone else and make mistakes, and it is what it is. So I think if you are someone who's maybe tempted to be distracted or rely on your phone or feel like it's like an easy way to slow down, or if you're someone who loves to listen to music while racing, which is its own thing, I'm not going to say yes or no to that. I race with music when I race a 5K because I pick the highest cadence, like the highest BPM music I can to keep me going. So that's like a strategy, that is a tool. And then I don't listen to music in the marathon, which seems backwards, but it's true. So if you are someone who listens to music, highly, highly recommend you get music on your watch or you get music. If it is on your phone, it's tucked into a pocket. And then there's always going to be that like what if it's a warm day and your phone's rubbing on the inside of your sports bra and all of a sudden the music changes or the music stops or you can't get it to play. Like, what are you going to do? Right. I unfortunately don't have music on my watch right now. Got a new watch that was gifted to me a little over a year ago, and it was it was such a nice gift, and I was very disappointed that there wasn't music capability for the watch because I love listening to music and I hate carrying my phone with me on a run. Hate it. And I think a lot of it is because I am so connected throughout the day in what I do for work, like as a coach, that it's really nice not having it with me all the time. It feels like I can reset my nervous system. I don't like to stop and take pictures like I did years ago. And I think a lot of that's just like I don't have a lot of time to be out there. I'm still running quite a few miles. So is just like, let's get this in, let's enjoy it, let's be present. Look at these beautiful run views that I get to have and not be fiddling with my phone to play music, because it does happen now. Like those examples I gave of like your music stopping, changing playlists, all of a sudden I have a podcast going on in my ear. Like that is not it. And that is so distracting. And if you are racing, I couldn't even imagine having to deal with that. That is like not it. Like that is so within your control. And what we want to do within these races and in these race settings is control everything that we can. Let's get the right shoes. Let's get the right kit so we don't have chafing. Let's get the right music on our watch, and let's give our phone to someone who is spectating and cheering us on and making a plan to meet up with them after the race at a certain intersection or a certain place. Depending on, world majors, you got to have a very specific area that you're meeting up with people. But like with local races, you could just be at the finish line. Like this is going to be a 2026 process goal for the team for sure, is breaking free from the phone. I don't know how I'm going to be able to track this. I hope I don't lose athletes over this, but like we're going to have to change something up, because I don't want that being a reason that all this time and energy and resources going into a race is the reason that a PR couldn't happen. That's not great. We're looking for breakthroughs. We're looking to get stronger. We're looking to get faster. We're not looking to be distracted by our phone while we're racing. I think maybe this is a bigger conversation to have that I'll have on my team's info call. So anyways, defining what makes the most out of your race is 100% the first step. And then the second step is before your race day on how to get the most out of race day. You definitely don't want to waste your build. So be really intentional with what you're doing. I say what happens in training shows up on race day, right? That is going to happen tried and true. So if you are stopping during intervals, if you are showing up with a negative attitude, if you're not testing out your gels, if you don't know what paces mean that you're running and you don't know why you're running them, that's a big issue. If you're overshooting pace and then falling apart later on, or overshooting and then undershooting, and you're yo-yoing, which takes a lot of energy and exertion, that's also not it. So really dialing in all your habits, all your routines, how you're showing up before race day, so it doesn't go to waste. You get to practice this multiple times throughout the week before going into your race. One of the things that I heard an athlete do in his marathon build was start carbo loading the day before one of his bigger long runs that had quality in it. I thought this is genius, because you're not only setting yourself up well for race day or for the long run, with the quality and executing a long run that's going to give you a lot of confidence, you are also mastering what you need to do during that 3-day carbo load for the marathon. So you don't have to think about it. It's like hitting the easy button. I know the carbs that work for me. I know the process. I know how much I need to take within a given 24 hours. This is incredible. Like, let's do this. So I think that's super smart. I think it only sets you up for success. And if it doesn't work, then you know what doesn't work. And then you can take that and refine it for next week's long run and figure out a different carbo loading schedule and menu and food items. As someone who's gluten-free, there's only a certain number of items I can eat. And a lot of the packaged gluten-free items, if you're a gluten-free runner, you may or may not know this, all the packaged stuff is loaded with extra fats. It's loaded with fillers. I recently just saw something on a news channel about like high processed foods are basically like, it was basically like the equivalent of smoking or something like that. So that's not it. I mean, we want to be fueling our bodies with like the best foods possible while also, having that balance, because some packaged food and fast food and all that stuff is really good. Have that balance. But if you're carb loading, you really want to be careful about like not ingesting too much fat, because that is going to delay the glycogen store process or kind of disrupt it a little bit. So we really want to be intentional with what we're eating. So figuring that out, especially if you do have food sensitivities, is a huge, huge way to set yourself up to get the most out of your race. I've had athletes before say they've raced like a half marathon and they said, "Oh, Coach Sarah, I moved the day before racing a half marathon." And they didn't hit their A goal. I think they hit their B goal, and she was disappointed, and then she ended coaching. It was like, I'm pretty sure the reason you didn't hit your A goal has nothing to do with your fitness. She had an incredible build. I think she was very skeptical about my training philosophy because she followed a plan online for years and years and years. She's been doing the exact same thing for years. So I think she was kind of finally plateauing. And then, change is hard, right? And that's going to be true for all of us. I think a lot of us have, at least I know I do. I have a very tough time with change. And it's something I'm working on because change can be really good and change is a part of life. And it's just how it is. And I think she was having a tough time believing. And I always tell the athlete, I really want you to trust the process. I also know what I'm doing. I've coached a lot of like hundreds of runners at this point. But to me, it's like they have to prove it to themselves, which is usually the race. And then to find out that this athlete moved her house the day before, I was like, oh, you kind of self sabotaged this, whether she knew it or not, because that's just not something you do before a half marathon. I don't care. Like if you're going after, she wanted to run, oh gosh, it was like low 80s. It was like 85, 86, 85, 85 in the half marathon. It's not like a walk in the park. And she was totally capable of doing it. But think about moving the day before racing your A goal race of the season. That's a really, really tough place to be. So just being really methodical, I think, is a really great way in training to set yourself up for success. Now, you can also be flexible in training and be methodical. I think it's something I've been mastering of like, yes, I want to be intentional. Yes, I'm really like intentional with like how I show up and what I do, but I also want to be flexible in a stance of like, if my body's not ready for a workout, I'm going to shift it. And if my body's not ready for this longer workout that I wrote for myself, I'm going to shift it or pull it back, or sometimes I change it on the fly, which has been a nice way to show up over the last few months. So just being really, really methodical and thoughtful with what you're doing in training to really set you up for success on race day. Okay, so the third point is a point that I think a lot of us fall into. I don't, because I said I like to start out slow, get faster, unless it's the last 5K I ran, and that was like out the window. But the first 10 minutes are really where you win or lose the race. So if you start out too fast, and this is something that can be worked on in training, it's something that I work with athletes all the time. I think I have more athletes who race or get out of the gate not just racing, but this also shows up in workouts, right? Like too fast and then they have to pull back or they blow up. It's something that can be worked on for sure, but you want to think about how you show up in the first 10 minutes of the race. Are you showing up too fast? Are you showing up really nervous and you have to stop and go to the bathroom? Are you starting out too slow and then you're leaving a lot of room on the table? I talked about my 8801 half marathon that I ran in Indianapolis, I think on last week's podcast episode. And yes, I started out right around 90 to 91 minute, kind of that was kind of where, I was averaging like between 6:55 and 7, I think was the first 5K of those splits. But my last split was 6:18, 6:19, something like that. And then my kick was 6 minute flat. And so I think it's really cool. I love, love, love that race and that progression. And Did I start out too conservative in that race? I think looking on paper, some people would say yes. There should have been the splits should have been a lot closer together than something like that. But I would argue no, because I was in a CIM build and I needed to get in 20 for the day. So I think my warm up was right around 3.5 to 4 miles. And then I raced and then I still had to cool down. And I don't really remember the end of that race. I don't remember how I felt other than just feeling really strong. But I also remember holding on to people, like people were right next to me that I clung on to, and it was life changing for that race. It's just a race. It's just life changing for that morning. But I will tell you, when I had to run the 3-ish mile cool down that I had to run after that race, it was the worst run of my life. My legs were toast. I was so sore. I was in so much pain. I was like, this is terrible. Now, it wasn't like, oh, I'm injuring myself, because I know the difference, but it was definitely awful. So I would say I did give everything that I had. I just started out a little bit slower and then I found a lot more speed at the end. But it's all just kind of knowing yourself, how you race, what you want to get the most out of, and making sure those first 10 minutes are, especially if you're in the half or in the marathon probably 20. And if you're in the 5K, 10K, probably the first 5-ish, first mile, really understand where you're at. I recently raced a 5K, right, in Denver, and I went out way too fast. Now, it felt great in the moment. I was like, this is the strongest I've ever felt. 5 pace. I'm so happy. And then I absolutely fell apart like halfway through on like the small rollers in Wash Park. And I was just like, whoa, I'm done. And so, yeah, if I could have started at like, let's say 10 seconds slower, could I have actually ran a faster 5K? I think so. I think I definitely could have, because I left so much out there in that last mile. I lost so much time because I was done. My legs were like, we are done. We are done. I even considered stopping. I was like, no, but I have athletes out here and like people are watching and like I cannot stop. This is like, I need to be a good example for the people that I coach and the community. And I can't stop even though I want to. So just know kind of where you fall and with what race distances you have, and kind of review your training and see what's coming up in training and how you can adjust that to maybe be slower. There are tools, there are ways to slow down or speed up if that's something that you need in the first mile, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of a race, for sure. And that's something I work with athletes all the time on. All the time on. Like, for example, I had an athlete who raced a hilly half this past weekend, which at the time this records, it'll be a week and a half out. And she crushed it. It was the hilliest half ever. It had over 900 feet of gain. And this is a race that she does every single year. And I started coaching her in January of 2025. So a little over a year ago. And so this was our first race together last year. And I remember she went out hot because it's flat. But then after the first 2-3 miles, it's like on pavement, it's pretty flat. And then it's like hills, 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 right? And, she progressively got slower. She still ran pretty well. I think she still PR'd the course that day. So she was happy, and for her, it's like where she's shaping up. She has a really great running community. And so I think a lot of them like to see like how they're placing amongst each other and how that's all falling. So this year I said to her, like, I don't want you going out as fast. I realize that this is a fast part of the course and you can still be fast, but not that fast, right? We don't need to be running K effort in the first K of the race and then trying to hang on, or even 10K effort, because it's just too fast. Because I wanted to see a strong last K, even on hills, because I knew she was capable of it. So the first half mile was fast. I think it was like 5K. And then she pulled it back, got into a rhythm. It was probably like high half marathon, low 10K pace until the hills started. And then she really like ran on effort. She ran a 3-minute PR on that course. She won like the age group. She won everything. She was so excited. She sent me an audio note and I could just hear it in her voice how happy she was. And the first thing she said was like, okay, I went too fast in the first half mile, but I slowed down. And like, so it's all an ebb and flow, right? And that's where like great coaching comes in, where I can say like, hey, you can still run a little bit faster because this is a great place to get a little bit of time because we know you're gaining 900 feet over the next 10 miles. But we also want to make sure that it's in balance and it's not too fast, right? So I think it's just reviewing where you're at, what you tend to do, and what your course is like this spring to decide how you want to show up and execute that plan. Now, the next thing is a decision point mid race of whether or not you want to start negotiating with yourself. Do you want to lose focus? Do you want to stay focused? Do you want to keep competing? I think something that we don't necessarily talk about in adult endurance running is competing with one another because it really is you versus you. I'm a very big believer in that. And when you're out on a course, like what I mentioned at Indy, I stuck like glue to the girls who were running next to me in that last 5K, and I got the best case effort. And it wasn't that I was like, I need to outkick them. I think I did outkick one. I don't think I outkicked the other. It's not about that. It's like working together to finish the race. And so I think it's really, really important to understand where you are in the race when the discomfort starts to settle in. So in the 5K, that could be around the 1.5 mile mark, right? For the half marathon, you could be at mile 10. That's usually when things start to go sideways. For the marathon, it could be like from 16 on. With the 10K, it's basically after mile 2 and you're just holding on for dear life. But you want to decide where you're at in the race, how you're going to show up, and what you're going to do. You have to expect discomfort. You have to expect it because it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, you're not racing your potential. But again, it goes back to the first step. What is the outcome? What are we looking to get? When I spoke about my Chicago 2022 marathon and going out and running a really great race, and it was a negative split and it didn't feel hard and I ran out of runway, that was all true. It really didn't get hard. I think I might have had a mile or two that I was like, ooh, this is kind of like the effort has shifted and then it shifted back, which we all know happens in the marathon. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was to finish the dang last 10K strong so I could like mentally get over that hurdle to be able to race better and stronger moving forward. I think it's also really important to stay present. And when Nell was racing me in the Boulder 10K, I had a very strong first 5K. The course is very difficult. You're at altitude. You're either running up or down. It's never flat. Even the up is like, oh, you're running on a 2% grade up. That will hit you running 10K effort at altitude. And if you go too fast, too soon, you will go anaerobic and you will start walking like I had to do 2 years ago. I guess 3 years ago now. Hey, it happens. Like, so you have to expect discomfort. That's part of it. You also have to stay present. So when Nell was with me, there was a point when things started to get hard. My breathing started to labor. And this was in the mile 3, which has a lot of hills. You're running through the neighborhoods. It has a lot of turns. And she kept saying, I need you to focus, focus. And then she would like micro chunk out the course for me. And it helped so much, even though I was really working that last 5K. But I also ran a 10K PR at altitude on a really tough course. And that was really cool. So I think it's really, really important that you need to expect discomfort. You need to stay present. You get to stay in it. You use the micro chunking tool that I've talked a lot about on this podcast. And you can adjust on effort, but do not panic. But you have to be true to adjusting on effort. When I was in Houston and I saw my team come through, and I would say it was a B day. It wasn't an A day. As a team as a whole, it was an A day in terms of community. I think I had one gal in terms of outcome do exactly what I thought she was going to do. there were a few people that came through and I looked at them and I'm like, you need to push harder. What are you doing? And so I didn't say that. I was just like, you gotta go. So like I jumped in with them and started running. And then that got them back in sync, right? I got them back into focus. It got them back into race mode. And I think they were probably relying a bit more on comfortable effort than racing effort, right? So it's important to kind of know the difference and not panicking about any of it, because anytime we feel like our breathing start to get labored, which is part of racing, but it's also part of workouts, it just has to be like the right type of breathing for where you're at in the race. I remember running Indianapolis at mile 9 when I told myself, like, okay, you have 4 miles to go, quick math, girl math. I don't know. I was doing math really quickly. Like, we're just going to say a 7 flat mile, like 7 times 4 is 28. You have 28 minutes of work. Even though I had 4.1, right? With the 13.1. And I wasn't running 7, it was under 7. But just for simple math, I told myself, you have 28 minutes of work. What do you have left for 28 minutes? And just go do that and kind of forget the watch. And it happened simultaneously at the same time. I like latched on to these women and it helped so much. Now I remember passing a woman that looked so strong. Like, she had like the kit, the shoes, she had a pacer. She just looked like she was in it. And when I passed her, her breathing was so labored that I was like, at mile 9, this is way too hard to be breathing. This is not it for her. She's not going to have the day, right? But I've also been there too. I've been there in a lot of races. So it's kind of just knowing your body. It's knowing what you can and can't do. And that's going to come with time. It's going to come with experience. And it's also realizing that, the panic, not panicking, and realizing that, you can adjust for effort if you need to pull back slightly. And it's also okay to get right back into race pace and get back on it, because you absolutely can do that. I think one of the best workouts that can teach you how to sit in the discomfort is the threshold workouts. It's not the speed workouts. It's not like go run a K at 5K race pace. No, it's the threshold work. And it's not the early stages of the threshold work. It is the later stages of the threshold work. It is the gritty, long intervals that you are just grinding through off of very little rest. And the pace is comfortable until it's uncomfortable. I remember having so many workouts, maybe too many workouts at Threshold last year, where I was like, I am so over this. I can't keep doing this every week. I mentally am like tapping out here. This is so hard. And Threshold also wasn't landing, and I was running slower, and it was frustrating, and my nervous system was jacked. I think I'll probably have an episode on how to like regulate your nervous system for running. And there was just so much going on and it just wasn't fun. But if the threshold workouts are designed appropriately and you're feeling strong and you're able to execute, threshold workouts are going to be the best way to teach you how to sit in that discomfort. So come race day, you're able to stick with it, stay in it, and stay focused and execute a really strong day, if that's your goal. All right. Lastly, I think the most of like what you can get out of the race itself is after the race and the reflection piece. This is huge. I do it with every athlete, whether it's over email, text, or call. Really want to go through the what worked, what didn't work. We don't do this for every single race because that would be bananas. My team races every single weekend, but we do it for key races and A races. So key races could be tune-ups. It could be their first race with me. It could be their first race in a while. It could be a race that determines we should maybe review what worked, what didn't work, all within 24 to 48 hours, a day or two. I think, writing down initial feelings is such an important aspect of race day. And then going back a few days later, once you're removed from the emotion of it, and writing down what worked and didn't work and just seeing how they're different. There's probably going to be some things that are the same and some things that aren't. which is just normal. I always love hearing I just finished a race, and you can hear like the people around them, and I'm getting an audio note about it because I am just getting raw emotion at that point. And I always love hearing, a few days later of like, what worked, what didn't work. How did you execute the plan, whatever the plan was for that day? How well did it go? Did you hesitate at all? Did anything come up outside of your control? And how did you pivot and shift with that? What did you learn about yourself? I think those are all really good things to review. And then I always ask a follow up question of like, well, let's look back on the training cycle. What did you like the most out of this training cycle? Because I really do want athletes to enjoy their training and have fun with training. So if there's something that they really love to do, I want to make sure that that's continues to be incorporated into future training cycles. And then I also ask them like, what didn't they like? What didn't work for you? Because one, it's a good learning experience for me of like, it could be an unknown weakness that I don't know that they don't actually love hills because they're saying like workout went well. And they're not telling me how much they just like hate them and they're cursing my name under their breath while they're running them. Could be something like, hey, I feel like I need to have more marathon pace work in my long run for my next marathon build. I think that would help me feel more confident. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, let's review what you had. I want to explain why you had what you had. And I'll also add how, what you want to do is like how we can get there, like what we can do to get there. It may or may not be able to happen within one cycle, just depending on how much more goal pace they want or what that long tempo looks like, because it is a stepping stone process. And even though we take steps forward, we might have a season or two or an entire year or a few years of not being in that fit season. So we have to work our way back before just picking up where we kind of left off, if that makes sense. I think reflection without guidance is a really tough place to be too. So if you're a runner who is reflecting and you're feeling like maybe there's a lot of negative self-talk or self-criticism, I really want you to put the coaching hat on if you don't have a coach, because I think it's really important. Or look at it like maybe a friend is writing it to you, because I think there can be a lot of grace and compassion that comes with that. I always say to my athletes, no matter what happens, like, you are putting the time, the energy, the resources into this, and you showed up and you did something hard. And I'm still so proud of you, whether they hit the intentional goal of the day or not, because at the end of the day, this is hard. I saw something on Instagram yesterday where someone was racing a half marathon, and he's like, why don't we like celebrate half marathons anymore? Why are we like making it seem like it's just this easy thing that everyone does? And I'm like, yeah, a half marathon is hard. It's 13 miles. Like, map 13 miles from your house to somewhere in town and like really like think about what we're doing. Wild. So like really pat yourself on the back, all of us right now. Pat, 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 pat. We're doing a great job. We're showing up. We're doing the best that we can do in this moment in training and running and getting the best that we can do and get out of ourselves. I think it's also always such a big stepping stone, right? We can't have everything all at once. Even if social media makes it look like some people nail things, execute them flawlessly. Yes and no. Anytime an athlete's comparing themselves to someone else on the team, I always say, whoa, 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 whoa. I hear you. I see you. And as a coach, if I'm coaching these people, I know the backstory. I know what's going on behind the social media post. I know the things that we're working on. And it doesn't mean that that person has to share everything, but I think it's important for other people who may be comparing themselves to people to say, like, well, that's not everything, right? And I think that that's just like the best little caption that we can have anytime we're on social media and we're looking and reviewing running accounts, because whether they post about the hard stuff, which I feel like I try and do a really good job of that, and people still tear me down and tell me I don't. And then I'm like always posting like the best things. I'm like, so the other part of that is like, you may just not be seeing those things, whether you are not recognizing it because your brain doesn't want to recognize it, or you're just only seeing certain posts from that athlete or certain stories from that athlete. And that just happens to be what you're seeing. Right. So I think it's taking, everything with the endurance mindset, the long game mindset. Everything is a stepping stone. We get to learn and grow from everything. Everyone is on their own journey. It takes longer for some people than others. I've always been like this like late bloomer in all ways of life, and like getting into my career and finding my flow, and I'm not married, and like there's just certain things like that I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I like just take a while to like find my groove and get into it. And running is one of those things because I have big goals and it's taken a long time to get close to them. I'm still not there, and who knows how long it's going to take to reach them. It could be 1 year of training. It could be a few more years of training. Who knows? But I think it's important to know that we're all in it together, and that it does take time. And so with racing and really fine tuning your racing skill set, that also takes time. So the more you can actually inject yourself into races, the better. And I say that with a grain of salt because it's really difficult to race half and marathons frequently. It just is. Like if you're pushing in the half marathon, that's a slippery slope. You have to be a pretty advanced runner to be turning around a lot of half marathons. So the 5K and 10K are great. The mile, great. You can work on how you're showing up to races and things that you want to execute. And the best part about it is that you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're probably going to find a breakthrough in that distance if you race it enough. And it's going to help normalize the racing experience. So when you get to your A goal race this year, you are feeling really confident. You're feeling really excited. You're not overly nervous. Some nerves are okay. I think some nerves are super normal. It's part of it, but you're ready to go. You are ready to go, and showing up in that more relaxed state is 100% going to get more out of you for that A goal race than anything else. Thanks for being with me today. If you are a one-on-one athlete, stay tuned for more. There is a lot more I'm covering on the team call, and we're going to deep dive into a few things that I didn't mention on this podcast. And also some of the things that I mentioned on this podcast, we'll do a deep dive into it. And of course, answer your questions. And maybe we'll deep dive into my why I really don't want anyone racing with a phone. And also, if you're someone who is maybe looking for your potential, you're looking to race your potential, find your training potential, find your way in this sport. You want to break through that plateau. You want to find that fitness. You want guidance. You want support. You want a smart strategy that's going to help you get there. Less is more. One-on-one spots are open with Coach Amber, Coach Haley, and I have a spot open as well. So I'd love to expand the team this year. I'd love to have you join the team, and let's have a strong 2026 racing season. You can find more information on coaching on my website, elevateyourrunning.com, or just send me a DM on Instagram at Sarah, SAYRAH, runs happy. Thanks everyone for listening. I'll see you again next week.